Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the You Like That podcast isolation sessions. I'm one half of the podcast. My name's Jack. Adam's not here. We're not in Adam's room still because the world's still on fire and we're not allowed to do anything without police permission. Adam will be with you tomorrow, maybe later in the weekend. I don't fucking know. We didn't talk about it. We're doing a themed week this week to try and show that we're still doing the podcast together in some way. We're still related to each other via the podcast. We're doing the films of Ari Aster, Ari Aster. Hereditary and MIDSOMMAR. I'm doing Hereditary. He's doing MIDSOMMAR. I don't think he's seen MIDSOMMAR. I've seen Hereditary once before. I don't know. We just thought it would be cool. His sisters suggested it because they really, really like these movies as well. So we're doing it, for the audience, obviously, but they'll enjoy it too, I guess. I think Hereditary is the best movie that's ever been made. I think it is a perfect movie. It's not my favourite movie. It's in the top 10 somewhere, which I'll do eventually, which is a nightmare prospect because I can't even talk about one movie, let alone fucking 10. Can you imagine how long that episode's going to be? It's going to go for about 24 months. Lockdown will be lifted by the time I finish talking about 10 fucking movies. Jesus Christ. This one's it'll be 8th or 7th, somewhere around there. I really, really love this movie. I adore this movie. And I think as far as the craft of filmmaking goes, it's the best that's ever been done. It's the best one. It's perfect. It came out of nowhere. They had the trailer with the weird little girl and everyone was like, oh, what the hell is this? It's just a weird horror movie. I was the same. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't want to read anything about it because I was like, this looks interesting enough to where I'll just go in blind and hope for the best. And by God, did I get the best. This is one of the most shocking, horrifically uncomfortable movies you will ever see. It is a horror movie. It is basically, if you want to boil it down to its very base level, it's a demon possession movie, which we spoke about in our horror special as being kind of tired and done and boring and formulaic. But this is anything but that. And there's a few reasons for that. One, it's a competent filmmaker making it. It's a competent director who actually cared about the movie he was making. It's a studio who cares about making interesting art and giving actual creative directors a go. A24, shout out. We love them. We will always champion them. The script's good, really, really good. It was actually written by people who cared, again. And then the cast. The cast is unbelievable. Every performance it just looks like real life. It's so hard to tell that you're watching a movie because it's so fucking perfectly done. This movie is absolutely perfect. I just went and saw it because Toni Collette was in it, really. I will watch anything she's in, and the fact that she didn't get Best Actress for this movie just because it's a horror movie is absolutely criminal. They should retroactively go back and go, you know what? We got that one wrong. Here it is. Toni Collette gets every single award that's ever been invented because this is the most incredible lead performance of any movie ever. She is just incredible. She's grief-stricken. She's playing someone who has a long-standing history with mental illness, schizophrenia, all this horrible, horrible stuff. And she's just playing it respectfully, realistically, and brilliantly. She is so heartbreaking to watch. I don't know how Ari Aster gets people to cry the way he does. He must just be a fucking terrible bloke or something. I don't know. But the crying is so realistic. You'll notice it in MIDSOMMAR as well. The crying is just so visceral and uncomfortable to watch. You don't want to watch someone cry ever. But this is really out there and weird. But anyway, it's a possession movie. It's a demon possession movie. But it starts off as just sort of a family going through a loss, just working out the dynamic of the family, sort of, because there's stuff that gets revealed later on. Everyone's just doing an incredible job. It's really realistic. They're really engaging and, dare I say, fun to watch. But nothing about this movie is fun. This is absolutely horrible. You'll notice a trend with the movies that I like. They make you feel absolutely terrible. In this movie, when I went and saw it, I think I blinked about 6 times, and I think I inhaled and exhaled maybe twice only. I was just so tense. It was like that scene in The Simpsons where Marge is like sitting in front of the lounge because she's so tense. I was like that, and I was like that for a few days after I watched it. I'm not exaggerating. I swear to God, I felt genuinely sick after seeing this movie for the first time. I came out of the theatre, I went and saw it with a friend, and I came out and she said I looked like I had just seen everyone I love die in a plane crash right in front of me. Like, I was grey, I was like out of breath, and I shaking, and I just wanted to throw up so badly. This movie evokes just such a realistically terrifying reaction. It really affects you physically and mentally as well. I didn't turn a light off in my house for a week after watching this. And it's scary. Horror is subjective. We've spoken about that before. I just watched a few weeks ago, I watched a terrible horror movie. It's not scary. It's just embarrassing to watch. Whereas this movie, it couldn't be more different, but it's still the same genre, quote unquote, which is insane. Like, the gap between good and bad horror is so massive. It's unbelievable. This movie isn't traditionally scary. It's not loud. It's not, it's not big bangs and jump scares and wah, 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 like we've spoken about. Bad. This movie creeps in, and it creeps in under your skin, and it stays there, and it just sits there, and it lets you know it's there. It's like, hey, I'm under your skin. I'm going to do something very, very terrible to you, but you're not going to know when. But you're going to know it's going to happen, and you're going to know that I'm there, and I'm going to do this eventually, but you're not going to know when. And I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to point anything out. I'm not going to, I'm not going to freak you out or anything, but I am going to make you really uncomfortable and really stressed and anxious. And this movie just nails it. The tone, the pacing, everything. It's done to perfection to properly scare you. In the truest sense of the word, this movie scares the living shit out of you. It takes a turn. There's a pretty early twist. I guess I'm going to spoil it. It's like fucking 4 years old at this point. There's a pretty early twist. The weird girl in all the trailers, you're like, obviously she's going to be a big part of it. She's probably going to be the demon. She's probably going to, do weird, scary child shit that you see in every single horror movie ever. And she doesn't. She just dies. Just pretty early on. In a very, very, very disturbing death scene. She just dies. Head comes off. Boom. Done. Gone. I did some reading later on after this movie. I'd only watched this twice because the first time it fucked me up so badly. I bought it on Blu-ray the second it came out, but I've just never watched it again because I couldn't bring myself to do it again. So I did it today in broad daylight in the safety of my home. And then I went and read about it because I did, not that I didn't understand it, but I was like, there's got to be more. I'm probably too dumb for this movie. And I was, and I am. So the kid was never the kid, right? It was always the demon. Like, since birth, she was the demon. She was the host of this demon, which eventually is trying to find its way to a male host, which is the young son in the movie, which we'll get to. But anyway, yeah, she just dies, just gone. And it's sort of insinuated that it's the son's fault, which I guess it is, really. Yeah, it's his fault. And so, like, if you've ever, like, the thing that's so realistic about it and it gets such a reaction out of you is because you think about it realistically. You put yourself in this situation. Like, if you've ever made your mum cry, it's the worst feeling in the world. It is the most horrible feeling in the world. And this guy did it via killing his sister, killing his mother's daughter, right? Horrible. just horrible. Even just thinking about that, you're like, I don't want to watch this in a movie, but here it is, just right there. No big, jump scare. There's no they don't really make a big point about it. It's just like this tension building, and the pacing and the editing gets more erratic, and it's sort of like watching a different movie. It's like boom, 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 and then it just happens. It's just silence. It's one long shot, just on the son's face, who I will quickly look up his name. Hopefully this doesn't stop the recording. Alex Wolff. Alex Wolff. What a sick name. Fuck yeah. Alex Wolff, brother. Fuck. You can just see him playing a solo on a mountain, can't you? Alex Wolff is incredible in this as well. He delivers such a great performance. Really, really heartbreaking. Like, you feel his fear the whole time. And he's just like, it's like something snaps in him. We were talking about mental illness. The movie's called Hereditary, so you assume there's some dormant mental illness there, because you hear about Annie's mental illness, schizophrenia, her brother killed herself, all that stuff, himself. And then he just snaps. It's just like his performance just goes full deadpan, just silence, just drives home, doesn't mention it. And then it just all unravels from there. So it's a case study into how people deal with grief, really, because Annie turns to spirituality, mediums and stuff, trying to get this seance going to at least speak to her daughter again, and sort of bringing her husband and son into it as well. Sort of like, is this just, they're like the audience, they're like, is this just a breakdown or whatever? Is this actually happening? Is she really psychic? Is she a medium? Is she talking to the dead? We don't know. And that's what's lovely about this movie as well. It's not lovely, it's horrible. Whereas other horror movies, the main characters generally find stuff out after the audience, which is a terrible. I hate that in filmmaking. I hate it when the movie goes, okay, here's what's happening, and we're going to watch characters discover it. There is merit in that, I'm sure. It's just one other way to tell a story. I prefer it when a story happens in front of you and you learn stuff as the characters learn stuff. It just it feels a bit more realistic, puts you in their shoes, and it's easier to really immerse yourself in this movie. And it does it perfectly, which is why it gets such a reaction out of you. So we're learning more and more. We're learning about, you see little glimpses of the mum. Annie's mum was into spirituality. She was reading about this demon, Paimon, the god of mischief or something, which I thought was Loki. That just means I watched too much of the Avengers. And you think she was just reading about it or whatever. She was just interested in it. Turns out she was actually trying to get this thing going. She was part of a cult. There's little subtle imagery, little symbols and stuff littered throughout the movie. It's all very subtle. It's not never in your face, because there are some moments that are just so shocking in how full on they are, but they're not how do I explain it? It's not just a cheap jump scare or whatever. The dad's death, everyone dies in this fucking movie, Jesus Christ. The dad's death is so shocking because he just catches fire. Just catches fire and just fucking dies, and it's really, really horrible to watch. Anyway, so the demon needs a male host. Annie is sort of unwillingly doing that to her son. And it's paralleled with this story of postnatal depression, I think. She didn't want a kid. She was pressured into it by her mum. She tried to, write the kid off, have a miscarriage and stuff. Horrible stuff to say to your son, Jesus Christ. But it all comes out and it's all very horrible. And so as the audience and as the dad's sort of well, you're doing this on purpose. You've had a mental breakdown. You want your son to die because you're angry at him for killing the daughter. And you think, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's probably what's happening. But again, no, it's actually a demon. It's actually all happening. The cult succeeded in summoning this demon, putting him in the host of the young son after the death of the young daughter who the demon was originally. Look, you have to go and read about it because it's one of those, like, it's sort of obvious, but there's so much more to it. Which again, just shows that actual care went into the making of this movie because they created this lore based on a real sort of story. Oh, pardon me. I lost my train of thought. That burp really threw me. Toni Collette's performance. Let's just talk about that for a minute. There's a scene after the death of Charlie, the daughter, where they're having dinner at the table, and she just blows up. Like, this movie, she has so many long monologues, and which is already impressive, but she's doing it so realistically and so convincingly, and she blows up at the son, Peter, and it's sort of like she's been holding on to these horrible things she wants to say to him since he killed the daughter, but she's sort of like, respectful of how he would react to it, and she just blows up, and you could tell it was definitely the first take, because she makes mistakes. Like, she says dumb stuff. She says, like, that dumb face on your face, and she stumbles over some words, but she's like blowing up, like shaking, screaming, like giving absolutely everything into this performance. And that's what makes it different to other horror movies. There's actual brilliant acting going on. It's not just some dumb teenager that's like following the rule book. And that would have been a satisfying ending, like that catharsis, that blow up, where she says everything she actually wants to say to him. If it was not a horror demon movie, that would have been a perfect ending. And that's incredible to me. I don't know, it's just like one scene could perfectly wrap up the events so far. There would still be some questions, like the spirituality stuff, the ghosts that they're seeing, like, is that all real? Is that just, grief, like tiredness or whatever? But it would have been so cool if that was like the ending, if it was like a 50-minute movie and that was the ending point, because it's so perfect. Like, how many movies can you say have the monologue that good where you would be super satisfied if that was the ending? Not many. This one does. Perfect movie. So the horror comes from how it makes you feel. I'll go back to that. The horror comes from the discomfort and the visceral reactions. It's giving you with little sprinklings of horrible, terrible moments. But there's so much subtlety in the horror as well. Like, there's certain scenes where things are happening in the background. There's like, it's all very static and, perfectly, beautifully framed and stuff. This is such a gorgeous movie, good Lord. But there's little tweaks, like the main one that everyone turns to is like when Peter wakes up and it's all dark and you can just see, like, when it's all kicking off, when there is, okay, this is actually possession, there's actually supernatural stuff happening. Toni Collette's just like in the corner, just up on the roof, just hanging out, somehow flying as a ghost would, and then she like goes out of frame, like just in the background. It's not like there's not a big musical sting, there's not like that, that very overused. Yeah, every jump scare has like that female scream for some reason, even if there's not a female in the scene screaming. Every jump scare has the musical sting, and then there's like that scream. And you'll know it if you hear it. It's just like female scream.exe, and they just fucking slap it on. None of that. There's not even any music. It's just, she's just there. And there's no attention drawn to it. Naturally, your eyes are looking at the main character, like, what's he doing? What's happening in this scene, But she's just there. Yeah, I love that. I love horror like that. I love background stuff. I love movies that reward repeat viewings because you see something in the background and it freaks you out. It's that thing I always go back to. If you're at the end of your hallway in the dark and you think you see something, and then you do a double take, and of course there's nothing there. But what if there was something there? You know, that's where the real fear comes from. Sorry about my dog. We've already been interrupted by a motorbike in one last attempt at a recording. And now my dog's interrupting as well. Well, fuck it. I'm already too far in. I'll just keep going. So, and then it does build and it does build and it does get really full on and like super exciting and sort of in a snap, but not in a lazy, clumsy, the ghost is here and it's just ruining everything. Because that is happening, but it's paced so perfectly because you're in the footsteps of Peter, the son, discovering it all as it's happening, which is awesome. It's just like, that's the perfect way to do a horror movie, is just let the audience be in the movie and be tense and scared with the characters in the movie. It's just so much more realistic. You want horror to be realistic. Obviously, there's no such thing as demons and ghosts and all that shit. It can't be that realistic, obviously, but you want to make it as realistic as you can to get people to go, oh, well, fucking hell, I don't want to go home. I don't want to walk through my dark house. And that's what this movie does so perfectly. And that's why I think it's a perfect movie. It's a perfect horror movie. It's a perfect movie. It's just very, very, very good. Really good. Yeah. You could say 100 billion things about this movie, but I've been out of the podcast game for like a week now because I was too depressed to do an episode. So I don't really know how to talk right now. Where was I going? Fuck's sake. God. I need Adam. Like, I'm going to say it every week, but I need Adam so badly to reel me in and just keep me on topic. This must be awful to listen to. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's all set basically within the same house, really. Like, the house, I always love it when a location is a character as well. The house is this creepy old giant mansion, and you know your way around it because it's shown so perfectly. I said that about Parasite. They do a really good job at showing enough of the house that you know where things are and what's happening and why it's scary that something is out of place there. That's awesome. That just goes back down to the direction, set design, everything. Everyone who worked on this movie should have every award ever because it's just all perfect. It's all so well done. Yeah, it's just fucking terrifying. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend watching it by yourself. I wouldn't recommend watching it at night. I wouldn't recommend, going to work after watching it. You need to just settle down and chill out after watching this. You need to meditate or something because this movie really, really, really affects you and really gets under your skin in a really good way. That's a good thing. I want every movie to do that. Yeah, if you like being scared, watch it. I don't know, I didn't really say that much about it. I just kind of talked in circles, but whatever. I just watched it and I feel like shit again. Even on the second viewing, I was just like, God, this is so scary. And I'm so on edge, I'm so tense, and I just feel genuinely shaken. Like I've just seen something properly horrible happen in front of me. That's because I did, and it's called Hereditary. It's by Ari Aster. It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix in Australia, so watch it, but proceed with caution. Have someone there with you or whatever, just because either way you're going to get super immersed into it. It's magnetic, this movie is absolutely magnetic. It pulls you in hook, line and sinker, and it's impossible not to just fall in love with. Yeah, watch it. Listen to Adam's podcast on MIDSOMMAR tomorrow. Personally, I didn't like MIDSOMMAR as much as Hereditary. I still liked it quite a bit, but it's just not as good, in my opinion. Still pretty good. It's a good movie. But yeah, let's see what Adam has to say about it. And then we're planning on, when we're allowed to go outdoors again, we're planning on meeting up and just talking about this again, at least briefly, just talking about these movies again when we actually have each other to bounce off. Yeah, Hereditary. Thanks for listening. If you like that podcast, Yeah, do all the things, follow, listen, subscribe, share. Punch me in the face, I don't give a fuck. Just listen. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you on the next one, which I don't know is going to be. Maybe I'll do the top 10 next time, so give me a week to stress about that and then I'll figure it out. Yeah, cheers. Very good.